Hey everybody, figured I'd do a little video showing kind of what I got going on in the backyard this year. Things have changed a lot since we moved in October of 14, coming up on our second year. We added a big chicken enclosure operation. I just recently added this little bin over here to sort of passively compost in and let them scratch through for bugs and whatever plant material they want to eat. So that's working out really nicely as a location for the weeds that I pull out of the cement or out of the garden. Dump them in here and serving two purposes, closing those waste loops. So the garden, I staked out an area. The rabbits were one thing that I definitely wanted to exclude without any other real exceptions, and it's been going pretty good. We got a good amount of diversity, not only amongst our annual crops, you know, your basil and cabbage, broccoli, tomatoes, that sort of thing, squash, but also adding in some perennial options as well. Some, you know, the orange flowers is a butterfly milkweed, another different kind of milkweed here. You know, it's fun to have volunteer squash just come up, and you're not really sure what kind of squash you're getting until they come. Looks like this one's acorn. I did put in a little big leaf magnolia here, just as a perennial kind of understory, large leaves, but fairly dappled shade with an open growing habit. Again, just to add some little unique growing situations. It's always fun to see little mushrooms popping up in the path wherever. This is a Romanesco cauliflower that's kind of a non-starter for me. You know, the grasshoppers have really been going after it. You can see their poop kind of collecting down there in the base, but aside from that, it's just not really blooming, giving me the edible part that I was hoping for. So not sure what was going on there. Amaranth is a really fun colorful plant that's also kind of a grain crop. I've never really eaten it myself, but again, just mixing up some butterfly milkweed with bell peppers, herbs, amaranth. We just put in a fall crop of carrots and beets in a couple of these areas. Epimedium, another perennial that's a favorite of mine that seems to be getting a bit too much sun even right here, so I'll probably transplant that out. The cabbage just doing beautifully, even though the cabbage moths, as you can see, are just everywhere. I'm gonna have to go a lot lighter on the brassicas next year probably. Borage, you know, a favorite, good companion plant, edible. These flowers have kind of a cucumber taste. You get the sepals off of there, and a little sweet. This is just an annual salvia that I like a lot, called Black and Blue. Mix that up over here with this iris. Put a little bit of asparagus down here. We'll go ahead and form a little perennial asparagus patch over there. I've tucked it in a few other places around the garden too, but this broccoli needs to get cut off. It's going to flower and not too edible anymore, but some of the others are doing good. This is marsh mallow, you know, obviously in the mallow family. The flowers are edible. I think it's the roots that were used a while back, just kind of a fun plant. I'll have to look into that one more. Walking onion. It's not a real good time to show you this plant because it's not forming the little bulbs on the top, but it's a great plant that walks about perennially by forming these small little onion-like bulbs on the top, falling over, and then rooting again, hence the walking part. It's mostly a good green onion type. The bulbs themselves don't get very big, but it's a great perennial plant that just sort of moves about, walks around in the garden without being hard to control. Jalapenos. This is mountain mint. This is another perennial that I like a lot. It's a great alternative to your more traditional mints that can take over by seed. It's got the same minty sort of flavor. It's good in a fruit salad, diced up with some lemon juice and honey. And then this is another new favorite of mine. I'm going to continue to put in This is an annual basil called Tulsi, or Thai holy basil. It's got this amazing fruity tone on top of the basil smell that's just fantastic. It's very culturally important plant in Southeast Asia and India, and as you can see, the pollinators just absolutely love it. There's a volunteer tomato. We'll walk around over to that one. It's either copia or pineapple, I can't remember which. As you can see, you know, these heirlooms are gorgeous, but they're pretty fragile. The fruits, the skins are really small. You really have to stay on top of them and pick them as soon as you can. But it's nice to have those volunteers come back and perform well. Another wonderful example of that decay that goes on, that cyclical nature of life. Beefsteak, you know, again, not doing really well, producing really abundantly just now. Get a nice basil there next to it and some asparagus. Eyeball plant, Indian toothache plant, it's also called. This is a fairly common bedding plant sold at nurseries. I won't eat it just yet because I need to be able to talk properly, but it does have this effervescent, citrusy, mouth-nummy kind of thing when you chew up these flower buds, which might have been practical before we had modern alternatives, but a fun plant for engagement. I did put in one pear, kind of a sad-looking little guy right now, but it'll fill in nice and become sort of a backdrop and another perennial addition to the garden. And then Lespedeza, a nice nitrogen fixer in the pea family that'll form a nice big clump right here and stake out some space for itself. So that's kind of what's going on in the garden. I mean, there's some spots further back where we have some other things going, but this is the garden proper, and we've been really happy this year. So enjoy. Thanks.